I would tell a guy, Jack Nicklaus instilled in me when I asked him some tips when I first got on tour. He said, Mark, I hope you play great. I played with him in the last round at Doral in 1985 when I was lucky enough to win. And the whole day when I would make a great shot, he would go, well done. And I would think, wow, this is really neat that he's rooting me on, but he still wanted to beat me.
You know what they say about Mark McCumber? He was my GOAT when it came to spotting talent. But here's the thing, McCumber wasn't the guy who handed out compliments like candy. In fact, he had a reputation for being one of golf's toughest critics. He'd watch a player miss a putt and have something to say about it. He'd see someone play it safe and shake his head. Mark McCumber was old school. He didn't soften his opinions to make friends. So when McCumber actually says he genuinely respects someone, that means something. Because respect from Mark McCumber wasn't easy to get at all. It was truly earned. And today we're breaking down the exact players who earned it. Mark McCumber won 10 times on the PGA Tour, including 2 Western Open titles and the 1988 Players' Championship. But his authority extends beyond his playing career. After leaving competition, he became a lead analyst for ABC and NBC Sports, watching the best players under pressure. This dual perspective, competitor and commentator, gave McCumber unique insight. He could evaluate players from the inside and the outside. He knew what they were thinking, and he could see patterns others missed. So what makes a player truly worthy of McCumber's respect? It's not just winning, it's not just the lowest score. For McCumber, respect came from how you won. It came from your mental strength. It came from your character under pressure. It came from whether you protected the game or damaged it. By looking at the players McCumber respected, we can understand what he valued most in golf. We can see the blueprint for what true greatness looks like. The first player on this list might surprise you. It's Tiger Woods. And McCumber's respect for Tiger started early. Back in the late 1990s, when Tiger was just beginning to take over the sport, most older players were still focused on Tiger's physical abilities. They talked about his driving distance. They talked about how he could reach par 5s in 2 shots when nobody else could. But McCumber looked deeper. He saw something that most people missed. He saw the mind. McCumber famously said about Tiger, "He's tough. I wish I was that tough when I was his age." Let that sink in for a second. Mark McCumber was a 10-time winner. He'd conquered the toughest courses in the world. He'd felt the pressure of major championships. He'd hit shots with millions of dollars on the line. And he was saying he wished he had Tiger's mental toughness. That's not a compliment McCumber gave lightly. What McCumber was recognizing was that Tiger had mastered something most players spend their entire careers trying to learn. Tiger had mastered the mind games of golf. He could handle pressure that would break other players. He could close out tournaments with a ruthless efficiency that reminded McCumber of the great players from earlier generations. If you gave Tiger a one-shot lead going into the final 9 holes, you could almost guarantee he was going to win. That kind of mental power fascinates someone like McCumber, because golf is 50% physical and 50% mental. You can have the perfect swing, but if your mind isn't strong enough, you'll lose. Tiger proved that the mind was his greatest weapon. McCumber understood this because he'd played at the highest level. He knew that when you're standing over a 4-foot putt with the tournament on the line, your technical ability doesn't matter. What matters is whether you can control the voice in your head that's telling you to be afraid. Tiger could control that voice. Most players couldn't. That's why McCumber said he wished he had Tiger's mental toughness when he was Tiger's age. The statistics back up McCumber's observation. Tiger won the BMW Championship 5 times between 1997 and 2009. In 1997, he won with a score of 13 under par. In 1999, he won with a score of 15 under par. In 2003, he won with a score of 21 under par. In 2007, he won with 22 under par. And in 2009, he won with 19 under par. Think about that consistency. Different courses, different fields, different years, but Tiger kept winning. McCumber saw that Tiger had something that couldn't be taught. You either had it or you didn't. Tiger had it. If you're hyped by that kind of mental toughness, that kind of ability to close out when it matters most, go hit that hype button below, because that's what separates the great from the ordinary. Now let's talk about Jack Nicklaus. For McCumber, Nicklaus wasn't just another player. He was the gold standard. Growing up during Jack's peak years, McCumber watched Nicklaus and learned what it meant to be a professional golfer. Nicklaus won 18 major championships. That number is famous. Everyone knows it. But McCumber's respect for Nicklaus wasn't about the number of majors he won. It was about how he won them. Nicklaus had a philosophy about golf. That philosophy was simple. You win the right way. You don't cut corners. You don't make excuses. You play by the rules and you respect your opponents. McCumber took that philosophy and made it his own. He believed that the way you win is as important as winning itself. You can win through intimidation. You can win through gamesmanship. You can win through whatever it takes. But McCumber respected Nicklaus because Jack won through pure excellence and integrity. In 1979, when McCumber was just a rookie on the tour, Nicklaus was still the dominant force. Even as Nicklaus battled physical challenges, he remained the standard against which all other players measured themselves. McCumber saw that and understood he was watching greatness not just in the moment, but across a lifetime of competition. This respect went deeper as both men got older. McCumber and Nicklaus both became golf course designers. They designed championship courses that tested players' skills and their minds. McCumber's courses emphasized wildlife preservation and strategic complexity. Nicklaus's courses became some of the most respected in the world. By designing courses, both men showed they cared about golf beyond their own victories. They were stewards of the game. They were trying to protect its soul. McCumber modeled himself after Nicklaus in this way. He wanted to be remembered not just as a winner, but as a man who protected the traditions of golf and elevated the sport. But here's where things get interesting. The next player on McCumber's respect list is Greg Norman. And you might wonder, why would McCumber respect Greg Norman? Well, the answer is complicated. You see, McCumber and Norman had a personal conflict. During the 1995 World Series of Golf, Norman accused McCumber of cheating. Specifically, Norman said that McCumber pressed down a spike mark in his putting line on the 7th green. Norman was so upset that he said he was mad enough to bench press 500 pounds. He refused to sign McCumber's scorecard. He almost withdrew from the tournament. McCumber denied the accusation. He said he was just removing a bug from his line, which is completely legal under the rules. A PGA official couldn't definitively prove Norman's accusation either way. The incident created tension between the two men that seemed like it might never heal. The controversy hung over both their careers for years. But here's what's remarkable about McCumber. Despite this conflict, he still respected Greg Norman as a competitor. He recognized Norman as an incredible competitor and a physical force. Norman's driving was exceptional. His approach play was aggressive and skilled. His presence on the course was intimidating. McCumber understood that Norman felt a responsibility to protect the game. Norman believed his job was to police the tour and make sure players followed the rules. McCumber disagreed with Norman's specific accusations, but he respected the fact that Norman cared that much about the integrity of golf. This is professional maturity at its highest level. McCumber could separate his personal feelings from his professional evaluation. He could acknowledge that Norman was one of the world's best players, even though Norman had accused him of cheating. That takes character. That takes wisdom that comes from decades of competing at the elite level. Moving forward, we get to Phil Mickelson. By the time Mickelson came onto the tour in full force, McCumber was primarily a broadcaster. That gave him a unique perspective. He could analyze Mickelson's game in the broadcast booth and express his admiration for what Mickelson was doing. McCumber became a vocal supporter of Phil's short game magic. McCumber understood the difficulty of recovery shots because he'd played them for decades, but Phil took recovery shots to another level. Phil could hit shots that looked impossible. He'd land the ball on the green from places where most players couldn't even advance the ball. While other commentators criticized Phil for taking too many risks, McCumber defended him. He respected Phil's fearless creativity. McCumber understood that at the highest level of golf, imagination is as important as technique. You need to be able to picture a shot that doesn't exist and then execute it. Phil could do that better than almost anyone. McCumber had been influenced by golf course designers like Pete Dye, who designed courses specifically to test players' minds. Pete Dye would create situations that seemed impossible, and then great players would find a way. McCumber saw Mickelson as a player who could outthink the architect. Phil could find lines and angles that the course designer never intended. He could see possibilities where others saw only obstacles. That kind of imagination fascinates someone like McCumber. It's not about being reckless. It's not about ignoring the fundamentals. It's about elevating your game by thinking differently. It's about refusing to be limited by conventional wisdom. McCumber respected Phil for refusing to play it safe when the moment called for boldness. He saw in Phil a continuation of the artistic side of golf, something that was being lost in the increasingly data-driven modern game. Now we come to Ben Crenshaw. The respect McCumber holds for Ben Crenshaw might be the deepest on this entire list. That's because it came from direct partnership and shared experience. In 1988, McCumber and Crenshaw teamed up to represent the United States in the World Cup of Golf. They won. That victory is one of McCumber's highlights from his entire career. During that experience, McCumber got to know Crenshaw's character intimately. He saw how Ben handled pressure. He saw how Ben treated other competitors. He saw how Ben carried himself, and McCumber was deeply impressed. He called Crenshaw one of the most sincere and genuine men in golf. He called him a true gentleman. That's high praise from someone like McCumber. Part of McCumber's respect came from Crenshaw's skill. Ben was arguably the greatest putter in the history of golf. In 1987, Ben ranked third in putting statistics on the PGA Tour. McCumber was so intimidated by Crenshaw's putting that he said, "I know enough to be scared when Ben is putting." That's respect for someone's technical ability. But most of McCumber's respect came from Ben's character. Crenshaw was a historian of the game. He studied golf golf's origins. He understood the traditions. He was committed to maintaining the integrity of the sport's foundational principles. For McCumber, these were the same values that made Nicklaus great. Crenshaw was a guardian of the game. He protected its soul. McCumber also respected how Ben won the BMW Championship in 1992, another connection between them as champions of that specific event. And McCumber recognized that in Crenshaw, he saw the ideal teammate, a man whose skill was matched only by his sincerity and devotion to the game's traditions. These 5 players, Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Greg Norman, Phil Mickelson, and Ben Crenshaw, represent everything McCumber valued. They show us the blueprint for greatness. McCumber respects mental toughness, integrity, and tradition, the ability to compete amid conflict, and creative audacity. McCumber's transition from player to broadcaster allowed him to refine these values even further. As a player, he felt the grit of competitors like Crenshaw. He felt the power of competitors like Norman. As a broadcaster, he analyzed the innovation of Mickelson. He studied the dominance of Woods. This journey showed him that respect in professional golf isn't just about what you do on the leaderboard. It's about how you influence the sport itself. It's about how you change the game and elevate it for everyone who comes after you. The legacy of the BMW Championship winners tells this story perfectly. McCumber himself won it twice in 1983 and 1989. Jack Nicklaus won it twice in 1967 and 1968. Ben Crenshaw won it in 1992. Tiger Woods won it 5 times in 1997, 1999, 2003, 2007, and 2009. These champions represent different eras, different technologies, and different styles of play, but they all mastered the same fundamental principles. Toughness, integrity, skill, that's the lineage McCumber belongs to, and that's why he respects the players on his list. In the end, McCumber's respect for these 5 players tells us what he believes makes a true professional. It's not just about the wins. It's not just about the trophies or the money. It's about who you are when nobody's watching. It's about protecting the game. It's about playing with integrity. It's about having the mental strength to compete when everything is on the line. It's about being creative and brave enough to try something nobody's ever tried before. It's about being genuine and sincere in a world that rewards the opposite. It's about understanding that you're part of something bigger than yourself. Tiger Woods gave McCumber a blueprint for mental power and psychological dominance. He showed that the mind is the greatest weapon in golf. Jack Nicklaus gave him a solid blueprint for integrity. Nicklaus proved that you can win while still respecting the game and your opponents. Greg Norman taught him that respect can exist even in conflict. Respect isn't about liking someone. It's about acknowledging excellence and competitive fire, even when you have personal disagreements. Phil Mickelson showed him that brilliance requires imagination. It requires the willingness to think differently and to take risks when others play it safe. Ben Crenshaw demonstrated that sincerity and tradition are strengths, not weaknesses. They're the foundation upon which lasting greatness is built. Together, these 5 players represent the multifaceted excellence that McCumber spent his career pursuing. And together, they show us what it really means to be great in golf. It's not one thing. It's not just physical talent or intelligence or competitive fire. It's all of those things combined, filtered through character and integrity. McCumber saw that combination in these 5 men, and he chose to recognize it. He chose to respect them. And that respect, coming from someone as discerning and tough as Mark McCumber, means everything to those who truly understand the game.